Cool, we've got a whole lot of big changes, and starting off, we're finally getting these checkpoints in areas which you can now click to fast travel between zones. So the way this looks is, if I'm in a zone, I find this checkpoint, I can actually click it, and then it'll allow me to do this. That is really brilliant, being able to do that so quickly. Great change there, especially in these super big zones. They've also added in a whole lot more. So you'll be finding more checkpoints, and a lot of them have been added to the entrances and exits of areas. Passive respecs, way cheaper. This was ridiculously expensive in higher levels. So previously respecking was, wow, okay, I think this was like 9,000, but it's supposed to be 40 to 50% cheaper now, especially at high levels. So excellent change. Thank you. Then they've also added shortcuts to open a skills advanced information by right-clicking the skill in your skill bar. So you right-click this, it instantly brings this up. Brilliant. And added chance shards to the currency exchange, added a button to fast travel to your guild hideout when interacting with the waypoint. But then the big stuff, endgame and monster balance. This is a straight up buff to everyone. Maps no longer have additional elemental resistance penalties inherently applied at tier 6 and tier 11 or higher maps. It is now consistent across all of endgame at the same value as it was previously at tier 1. So many of you may not have even noticed, but if you got into tier 11 and tier 6 maps, you had a -10 resistance penalty. I don't think there was any indication of this. So when I woke up, my resistances looked a bit like this. When I went to bed, this was 74%. So even if we hop in a tier 11 map, you will see, there we go. So now I'm thoroughly overcapped. This is a very significant buff to everyone because it allows you more space on your suffixes for other modifiers, things like charm slots, which are going to be much more common on belts now. I have never seen that mod. Level 86, not seen it once. So you can get more charm slots. You can put different things in your gear. You could instead put in something like armor and evasion rating because now I'm resistance capped. Excellent change. Buffs for everyone. Crits from monsters now deal 40% less bonus damage. Chaos damage now scales less aggressively over the endgame. This was one of the few things that I felt was killing me, chaos damage. Ground laser, ground abilities used by the Ruined Knight in Expedition now deals substantially less damage. Waystone modifier that adds burning ground to your maps no longer increases in coverage or area with higher tier waystones. I ran a tier 13 map with burning ground, and it felt like 70% of the map was just burning ground, and then the mod should be like patches that are not burning ground, but the rest is burning ground. It was horrible. This is one of the best changes. Disable the volatile crystals modifier to be revised in the future pending telegraphing improvement. This is one of the most rubbish, badly designed on-death effects. I'm sure this has killed everyone. When you kill this monster, these stupid purple crystals would explode under you, and it was just so deadly. So the fact that they just got rid of it, excellent. Trail of Fire modifier now deals 30% less damage, lasts for shorter. Same for Trail of Lightning, Trail of Ice, lasts for shorter period. Purple explosive created by volatile plants modifier on rare monsters now deals significantly less damage. Lowered the baseline monster density of breach encountered primarily by reducing the frequency of the elite monsters appearing. We're gonna have to see how this feels. I think for the top end, for people who could handle this is obviously a nerf to breach. For probably the vast majority of people, this is going to make it feel much more manageable. Breach is chaotic, and if you're not prepared for it, you just get absolutely overwhelmed and end up just being scared of the mechanics. So have to test this. Might feel better, might just feel worse at the top end. Fix an inconsistency in the different types of packs that could spawn during breach encounters. You should now see more different types of monsters appearing on an area-to-area basis. This is kind of scary if you get the wrong kind of monster, but again, we're gonna have to see. Volatile spawned by the Volatile Fiend's Trial of Chaos modifier now accelerate over time. More nerfs to the Trial of Chaos. Trial of Chaos mod now smaller, take longer to charge up. Improved hitboxes of a number of abilities used by Blackjaw. Crossbow variants of the Decrepit Mercenary monsters that dealt fire damage now deal less damage. These things hit extremely hard. Very, very hard. I was going through the campaign yesterday on a monk, and these things were one-shotting me. Trial of the Sekima improvements. Honor damage now scales based on distance to enemies. You now take 35% less honor damage when in close range, tapering as you are further away from monsters. Big buff to melee builds. Hopefully this makes Trial of the Secumas more manageable for warrior builds and other melee builds. Fix a bug where damage over time was dealing 3 times as much damage to honor as intended. They've changed some of the stuff to do with the animals. Also, they've nerfed a couple of the monsters in Trial of the Secumas and added a keyword hover for the honor mechanic. Skill rebalance. There is a lot of skill rebalance. So they've added some changes to Ice Shot. And then probably the big one is, sadly, Vine Arrow's damage over time has been adjusted. It now deals slightly high damage at lower levels, substantially lower at high levels. People were pushing this skill to be very, very high level, like level 40, and it was doing an obscene amount of damage. And it is probably not as good anymore. Hopefully it's still usable, but I'm sure we will find out very soon. One of the very nice changes, Combat Frenzy now can gain a Frenzy Charge no more than every 3 seconds from 7 seconds at level 1 to approximately 1.5 seconds at level 20. Very nice change for monks who were using Resonance to gain power charges. This is a very, very big buff to just getting your consistency of your charges up. They've added a whole lot of other things. Go through this, see if your skill was nerfed. They've seemingly buffed concoctions. I don't know if these will be good or not now, but a lot of changes. One of the big things, it is now more difficult to chain freeze enemies by reducing the amount of freeze buildup applied after a freeze has been applied. When I was playing Monk, I did notice that this was fairly easy to do. So hopefully it's not too hard now, but hopefully it's a little bit more balanced. Then they've added a couple of new support gems for slam builds, and then also the bidding support gem, which can be used to give more damage to the command skills of supported minions. They've buffed fire exposure, lightning exposure, and cold exposure support gems. No longer penalize the damage of supported skills, but they have a mana cost multiplier of 120%. Electrocute support no longer penalizes damage. Instead, it now prevents the supported skills from being able to shock. I like this. Felt like so many support gems were just like, you deal 50% less damage, you deal 30% less damage. And you're like, man, I want to use these things that make my gems do cool things, but now they don't really deal any damage. So hopefully they can add in better things like this, so prevents it from shocking, but not make it deal a huge amount less damage. Lacerate's been buffed, 50% increased chance to bleed from 30. Envenom is now 50% chance to poison from 60. And then they've buffed Impact, Shockwave, few other things. Considered casting now only supports spells you cast yourself, not cast on triggers. It now grants 40% more spell damage from 25% and 15% less cast speed. I get the feeling there are probably a lot of people who are upset about this. Item balance. The charm modifiers on belts have been made substantially more common and now appear at much lower levels. So from level 23 onwards, you can get an additional charm socket on your belt. This is a suffix, and then from level 64 onwards, you can get 2 additional charm sockets. It's actually really important. Like I said, I'm level 86. I have not seen this mod once on any piece of gear that I've tried to craft or identified off the ground, not once. They've also changed some stuff. The Adorn now applies to Time Lost Jewels. I didn't even know these were in the game yet. Time Lost Jewel modifier of regeneration now applies 3 to 7% increased life regeneration rate. 2 notables in radius from 1 to 2%. And then just a bajillion bug fixes. If you are playing a build, what you can do is Control F, see if anything shows up there. There is a lot. I'm not going to read this at you, but a lot of good stuff in here. Small things like not being able to delete items on your cursor and hideout, certain skill interactions. Hopefully these make some things that were frustrating a little bit easier. A lot of gamepad changes as well. So people playing on controller, I assume that's what a gamepad is. Few changes over here, but overall very good changes. And I'm loving the pace of GGG's reception to feedback and changes. Hopefully we get another one, just one more before Christmas to tide us over until the new year. Let me know what you think of these changes. All looking very, very good. Excited for the future of the game. I'm going to be live very shortly over on Twitch. I'll catch you in the next video. Stay safe and bye-bye.